So please put your hands together for Emil Iliev from Tide Star Engineering team. With a decade of experience in tech industry, Emil brings a wealth of knowledge in Flutter, state management, architecture, and CI/CD. And his background in secure software development adds a unique perspective to his approach. Lesser known fact, he
Batteries are
also
running low.
practices Bulgarian traditional dancing. So if we are lucky enough, we might see a couple of moves tonight. So let's dive into the session on responsible development at Tide and Insider Tech from a Flutter engineer by Emil Iliev. Let's welcome you, everyone.
Just touch it somewhere.
Also, on the back of your ID cards, we have a QR code. So this QR code will give you access to the complete schedule, complete speakers list, and everything related to FCI. So please scan it.
I don't need it. So before we start, probably I will need a couple minutes just to prepare. Hope you mind. So it turns out it's much harder to make a presentation and go on stage compared to sit down and coding nowadays. Thank you for your patience, first of all. And yeah, hello, morning or good afternoon already. I'm really happy to see you all here today at FlutterConf India, and welcome. Today, I will talk about the responsible development at our company. And we will spend the next 30 minutes or so together, and I hope that everyone finds something useful to take away with them. But first, I want to thank to the Flutter community, to the local Flutter community here, for making this conference happen. Thank you, guys. You're great job. Now, allow me to introduce myself first. As most of you probably already know, my name is Emil, and I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria, which happens to be one of our office locations as well. I'm part of the Flutter mobile team at Tide, and I've been working there for the last 4 years. And my current role is a senior staff engineer at Tide. And before joining Tide, I used to work in different industries like automotive or gambling, and a couple of startups that I also used to work. And at the same time, I was also a university teaching assistant for 2 years. And of course, I'm still enthusiastic about different ways to share my knowledge with the community, and I'm really happy to be here. But I'm also very lucky to be, because I have a whole team standing behind me, without whom I was not going to be able to do this presentation. So thank you for receiving me here today. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about responsible development and what is the meaning of it in the context of Tide and my team's work. I will try to answer some questions like, what exactly does it take to produce a good app? How much effort does it take? And is Flutter knowledge enough? Or is there more to care about? Actually, what is considered enough? The Tide engineers, our engineers at Tide, are working for business owners who are burdened by the financial tasks and admin. Tide is a financial platform that saves people time and money. And unlike banks, we curate and integrate financial products and services into banking with a universal app which solves the full range of SME financial needs. And I'm very proud to work for such a company with a really strong social mission. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about Tide and our product, which in fact is entirely powered by Flutter. And like you already know, Tide is a fintech company, and some of our core products are completely related to banking. Some of them are transactions, payments, card management, invoicing, statements, business loans, and many, many more. But what we are truly devoted and care about is that we're humanizing finance to help ordinary people do what they really love and succeed. At Tide, engineers are working for people's livelihoods, which brings a level of responsibility sensitively higher than any other industry. And I'm here to tell you the story of how we, the engineers at Tide, nurture an application with an universal purpose. And applying the responsible development is embedded in our work from the very beginning, which actually was 8 years ago in 2015 when Tide was founded. And today we have around 10% market share in Tide's home country, which means that 1 in 10 small business owners in UK chooses Tide and continues to do so. And we're already for 1 year in India, and as you can see, our numbers base is growing strong. An interesting fact about Tide India is that in the local market, we were the first to implement the recycled cards, and 95% of our cards here are such at the moment. And of course, our team has grown a lot. So far, we're around 1,500 Tidians globally. And thanks to that team, in last year, we've managed to do a full migration from native apps to Flutter. And yeah, this is us, the team. And if you wonder how you can make a stable, world-class, multi-market, one-platform application with Flutter, the short answer is just join Tide and see how we did it. But jokes aside, our goal is to achieve a universal impact, and we can only do that with a diverse mind pool and multicultural emotional intelligence. And my company is a remote-first company, and this map shows the countries where we have people from or working from. And we don't limit ourselves to one location. Talent is everywhere. And of course, none of this would have been ever possible if the whole company didn't follow our 3 main core values, which are our simple, very effective navigation system in the stormy waters of the fintech world. Our members take the first place in every decision we make, inevitably and irrevocably. Without our team, I would not have been here today. We collaborate and deliver together. And last but not least, we listen to the data and we let it talk to us, and that is how we move forward. And of course, if you want to learn more about our company culture, please visit our booth outside. It's the next one, it's the first one on the sponsors area. So please go there and just check it out. And also an important statement that I have to make here is that at 3 p.m. later today, we will have a Kahoot quiz. So if you're interested, please come by and just participate. And my colleagues as well will be there. We'll be looking forward to speak with you. And enough about that. I think it's time to just start speaking about some code now. So, as you know, I'm working in this multicultural fintech company where we literally take care of people's lives. And for our members, their business means their life, and vice versa. They are humans, but so we are, the engineers. And to be a human means to make mistakes. Some of them would be like, you can easily oversee a single line of code in a pull request, or you can miss an edge case during the refinement sessions, or there was a new third-party integration that you recently added to your project, and now when it went to production, it started breaking. Well, releasing a feature is just the first step, and after that, the member starts using their app, and boom, the app crashes. Well, turns out that whether you're releasing a major update, a migration, or just a new feature is like riding a roller coaster. It's very exciting until you realize that you're strapped in your seat and you have nowhere to go and nowhere to stay. No one is actually coming to save you there. But however, there are a lot of ways to prevent the crashes. And some of them are entirely in our hands. And speaking about hands, How many of you here are writing unit tests in their daily basis? Can I see some hands? All right. Bit surprised. Well, I really hope that by the end of today, I'll see more hands in the air. Because one way to prevent crashes is by adopting testing strategies. And the testing pyramid is an example for that. It represents the distribution of different types of tests. And as a product-based company, we at Tide heavily rely on unit testing, and on testing like overall. And it's critically important for us and our processes to write unit tests. And by the way, what we have noticed is that most of the applicants who try to join Tide are getting rejected because they don't know how to write unit tests. And for me and for my teammates, unit testing is the bare minimum of the responsible development, and this is why it is the fundamental of the testing strategy. At our company, these are the tests that we write the most because they verify the correctness of the individual component and units of code in isolation. They are fast, specific, and provide a quick feedback to developers during the testing phase and the development phase as well. The truth is that we write thousands of tests, literally. There is no single developer at our company that has not been saved by their tests. So apart from unit tests, we also write integration tests to verify the interaction between the different components, and end-to-end tests to validate the entire system's behavior from our members' perspective. And you might ever think that this might be enough, but the truth is, no matter whether your tests are running successfully on your local machine, everything can break down when you try to run that on the device or on the CI/CD. And that's one of the reasons why we prefer to use CI/CD as an additional process. And in a nutshell, CI/CD is a practice of automating as much of the manual effort as possible to release the new code in the hands of our members. And continuous integration involves developers submitting code to a collaborative repository, followed by automated checks to validate our code. And of course, if the build succeeds, then we can safely ask our teammates to review the pull request and potentially merge it after that. But if it fails, then it's our job as engineers to further investigate what exactly went wrong. And this practice is really crucial because it saves us time by tackling potential production issues early on. And for example, those are some of the validations we do in our continuous integration workflow. If you can't see them well, some of them are. Hello. We're running analysis, test coverage. We're running all of our tests. We do dependency validations and loose code validations, and we also validate our borrow files. And after we merge the pull request, then the continuous delivery workflow picks it up, and in order to automate the delivery process into production-like environment. And at that stage, our team will conduct a bunch of many sanity checks, as well as they will run all of the end-to-end tests. And later, either this day or that week, there will be a cron job that will trigger the workflow again, but this time, our goal is to build the production app and deploy it to App Store and Google Play. But after the review process is done on their side, we are ready to submit the app to the store. However, releasing the app to our members at once is really risky. And to avoid that, at Tide, we prefer to use phased rollouts. So, Phase rollouts involve gradually deploying an app update to a subset of users before making it available to the entire user base. And this approach helps us identify and address potential issues before a widespread release. On Android, phase rollouts can be triggered from the Google Play Store, and they offer a lot more options for targeting and rolling out percentages. On iOS, enabling the phased release will roll out your new version to randomly selected members every day over the course of a week. So the phased releases could be the key difference for you guys between having 1% of your members facing a critical defect versus everyone else. But whatever your release strategy is, it will be useless without knowing what exactly is going on with your application. And for this reason, we are heavily relying on monitoring tools. They play a crucial role in ensuring the smooth operation and performance of mobile apps, especially during phase rollout releases. And such tools can be used for crash reporting, logging, error tracking, feature toggling, service degradation, analytics, and many more. But let's see how we can benefit from using such tools in our mobile app. But first, how many of you have seen that screen before? Are there any people who... All right. Okay, that's decent. For those of you who are not aware, this screen comes from Xcode, and that's the Xcode organizer screen, which you can access from the window tab in Xcode. It provides you member-facing crash reports which the members decided to share with you. And what about this one? Has anyone seen it? All right. So this snapshot here comes from App Store Connect, and it gives the and it's under the feedback section. It comes from App Store Connect, and it's under the Test Right tab, and it provides us with feedback about crash reports for members. And last but not least, how many people have seen this one from the Google Play Store console? You can find this one in the Android Vitals section. And for all of those three examples, we were fortunate because our members decided to share their crash reports with us. However, not all members are doing that. But what we can confirm is we listen to our members, we read their feedback, and we are fixing our crashes. And I'm not asking you to trust me here, but we can see what other engineers are saying and what the analytics tools are saying for us. The first post, I'm not sure whether you can read it, was made a couple months ago by one of our principal software engineers. And it says that the crash-free rate on our app is at 99.96%. And of course, the crash-free user sessions are at 99.993%, which is the 4 nines. So we practically were at that club for some time. Unfortunately, we dropped it down a little bit, and now, if you see the second picture, this is from that's the crash-free sessions in the last 1 week. We had a little spike, but we're trying to get back to where our place is and we believe we belong to. And we were never going to be there without the monitoring capabilities provided by Crashlytics. So resolving issues would have required significantly more time and effort to reproduce an address. And for example, sometimes the stack traces are not quite helpful. And even though we are aware of the crash, reproducing it is still a really, really challenging task. And that's why, in such cases, we rely on logging. So logs can provide you detailed information about the user interaction and errors, aiding in the identification and resolution of potential issues. And when you combine stack traces with logs, then you have a more comprehensive view, and this thing enhances our understanding of why the issues occurred in first place. And in the example here, you can see that there is a deep link on the second to last line, which usually refers that there was some navigation happening on the app. However, on the line above, we did a second navigation. And I'm not sure whether it's visible, but the delta between the third and the fourth line is around 20 milliseconds. And usually this reflects into a crash. And the stack trace that we were seeing on the previous slide completely confirms it. And based on the logs here, we were able to understand what exactly went wrong and how to fix that. But here is also a time to share something really, really important about logs. You should avoid the inclusion of sensitive personal data in your logs, and they should only capture necessary information for monitoring and troubleshooting purposes. But let's see an example of how this actually works in a Flutter app. But before we go to the example, how many of you guys here have been using block state management in their day-to-day work or in some of their projects? All right, that's quite a lot of you, so I'll skip the section I won't explain what block means and so on. But in this example, we've implemented a block monitoring observer class that extends the block observer. And the block observer is just an interface provided from the block framework. Then I've added this Firebase Crashlytics dependency property, and also I've introduced a construction dependency injection in order to be able to initialize it. Then the next thing is we defined the onEvent method, in which we've added a no check. The reason for this no check is mainly to guarantee we won't have any unnecessary noise in Firebase logs. And after that, I'm simply just calling Firebase log to track the current event in our block class. After that, I've implemented the onChange method in the same block monitoring observer class in order to track the block state updates for our block instances. It's rather straightforward. We just take the next state of the block class and log it in Firebase. And last but not least here is we have to initialize the block monitoring observer and set it to the global block observer instance. And to make sure I'll never forget about it, as a rule of thumb, I'm always initializing this on my main function. And when I'm done with the block monitoring, we can go to the navigation and define a sample monitoring instance as well. In this example, I've implemented the did push method, and we're mainly checking for both current and previous routes and whether they're null or empty. And if that's the case, we just skip them in order to prevent noise in our logs. But if that's not the case, we just log both routes along with the navigation type. This is a sample example where we just added the did push method, but you can easily extend it and cover all of the different navigation types, like whether it will be did poll or whether it will be replace cell, doesn't matter. You can just follow the same sample on all of those places. And last but not least, we have to initialize the navigation observer. The truth is it's really easy because you just have to pass it to your material app instance. And you don't need to add any external third-party dependencies in order to introduce the observer because it's already coming for you for free. It's defined in the Flutter framework itself. And so far, we've covered both the navigation and the block logs. So the final result should be similar to the one that you're seeing on the screen, except for the deep link log, but I guess you already have an idea of how you can do that if you need. However, having the high crash-free rate might be essential for a responsible developer, but it is not enough. We want to make sure that our members have a smooth experience while they're using the app. And smooth experience doesn't mean that as long as your app is not crashing, it's all going fine. It's a lot more than that. And for that reason, we at Tide treat defects with the same priority as crashes. And now let's take a look on how we can track defects. But first, we need to extend the block monitoring observer with this onError method. It's really simple, and we don't want to care about the block class here because our custom error that we will inject along with the stack trace will give us enough context to actually understand what exactly happened, and we just need to invoke the record error passing those parameters. But let's see how we can do that in practice. So we have this application status block class, which with open joining service that implemented inside. And it accepts a single parameter, which is an optional string. And in this case, this parameter might be no. And we don't want to do anything in case it's actually no, which actually is correct. I've seen this on many places, and I know a lot of people are doing that, and this is correct. But there is a small catch, there is a small problem here. Our members are probably tapped on a button or something, and they are staying on that screen because they wait something to happen. They're waiting for an event to appear or something, a pop-up to show or something, but nothing actually shows up until they just give up, close the screen, or even kill the app because it's just not working. And instead, we want to indicate to our members that something actually went wrong and they cannot actually fill the survey. And probably we can present an alert pop-up or just a toast message saying, hey, there is an error, please try again later. Or we can just be polite with them. And those errors will be enough for the members to understand, okay, maybe I don't need to wait, I can just kill the app or close the screen or whatever, just proceed with my work there. But the problem here is this won't indicate us as developers that there is actually an error, there is something wrong. And that's why we are calling this addError method here. And we want to set a custom message that will help us to further understand what exactly went wrong. In this example, I'm just passing an exception with a straightforward message saying, yeah, probably the email was no, but there could be a lot more complex examples. And because we've already implemented the onError method in our block observer, we don't need to do anything else except that. So the final result in Firebase for us will be a stack trace with a non-fatal error message on top, giving us a proper context of what exactly happened and why we are seeing the non-fatal error in the place. But we can also see the logs. And when we see both of them, we will have a better context of why it happened in first place and how we can prevent that, and is it possible. And tracking errors through block classes is helpful for us, but it's not sufficient. For example, what if you have a third-party dependency which you use to retrieve some information, some important information from it, like some important bits? Well, it's worth passing the error from the provider back to your blog class and then report the error from there. Yeah, it's a potential one way to do that, but I don't think that it makes a lot of sense because you can find a better way. You can just add a Firebase dependency to our provider class and then report the error directly from there. In this example, the member just tried to log out from our app. And for some reason, we weren't able to retrieve the company details after that. Well, it turned out that there was a temporary error in one of the third-party dependencies, and we couldn't know about that without those error logs here. But so far, we've covered various ways to track errors in our app. Let's change the topic a little bit. Let's now speak about how we can release a feature, but the safe way, with the help of feature toggles. And the feature toggles involve wrapping a piece of functionality that could be remotely toggled on or off without the code base, without altering the code base and releasing a new app version. The necessity of feature flags can be better understood with the following use cases, which are continuous delivery and deployment, progressive rollout, A/B testing, feature customization, or service degradation. And the continuous delivery and deployment feature use case is quite straightforward. It just helps you to decouple and deliver as engineer, and you can just decouple deployment and delivery. And as engineer, you can deploy your changes to production, but you can decide to enable them and make the feature visible for your members at a later stage. So I'm not sure whether it was visible for, maybe I can just play it again and give you better understanding. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm remotely controlling the add to Apple Wallet from the button so that members can see it or not see it. Of course, in an isolated environment. I didn't want to do that on production. And now, sometimes, when we're building a shiny new features, and we place them behind feature toggles, we also want to make sure that we are not rolling them out to all of our members at once. And feature flags facilitate the gradual and controlled rollouts of new features. And instead of releasing the feature at once, developers can roll it out and incrementally release it to a subset of users or based on a specific criteria or demographics. And this allows us to monitor and gather feedback before a full-scale release. Or with other words, releasing the feature, we can follow the release rollout strategy that we have for releasing the app, like for features, like on a granular level for our features as well. And then, what if we've got multiple entry points, and it's hard for us to decide which one we want to use. And well, the truth is you don't need to think about such cases, because no matter whether you've got a single feature which you want to put in multiple places, A/B testing is the right tool for you to help in that. It stands for comparing versions of a feature or entry points to determine which performs better. And this is a data-driven approach that helps developers make informed decisions based on user behavior and preferences. In our example, we have introduced 4 variations, and for simplicity, we just call them version 1, 2, 3, and default. So we enable them on production on when we split the member base equally, and then a couple weeks later, we just stop the experiment to see the results. And they were clearly showing that variation 4, or the default variation, had the highest conversion rate. And therefore, we just decided to stick with it and dropped all of the others. But feature flags also allow developers to customize the experience for different user segments. Such targeting can be based on user roles, on subscription levels, or many more. For example, you can provide, and you can use them to provide a tailored experience for your members. And on top of that, most of the tools provide different return types. It could be Boolean types, it can be, your toggles could return a strings, they can return numbers, or a JSON objects. But to shift a little bit here, imagine if you are working in a banking app, and you have a couple 100,000 of members. And all of a sudden, your app stops working. The transaction timeline just stops working. Obviously, there might be a backend outage or something else. And what we usually do is we just show a generic error message. But it can go worse. What if our payments stop working? And it's December now, people are thinking about the upcoming holidays, and all of a sudden, whenever you try to make a payment, it just fails. So what should we do in that case? Truth is, we already know the answer. Yes, since we are the responsible developers, we know that in such cases, we can have a feature toggle, and we should already have one, that we will enable to hide the feature, and voila, problem solved. So on the left side, you're seeing how our screen looks without the payment functionality, and on the right side, it's the same with the payment functionality enabled. Well, that's great. However, there is another problem now. Like we said, we're a fintech company, and doing payments is one of our core functionalities. We can't just kill a core functionality. Imagine using an Uber app, for example, when you want to, and you try to book a ride, but for some reason, you are not able to. The book button just disappeared. Or even worse, what if you try to order food for home, but you can't purchase because the functionality is just missing? In both cases, those are the main functions, the main reason you actually use the apps, and you would expect them to work. Well, the truth is, if you remove them, then that's a recipe for a disaster. And on that screen here, I can see two core features. For me, they are payments and card management. And we have to guarantee to our members that they will be available at all times. Or if something is actually wrong, we need to show a meaningful message with the actual. And service degradation is the toggles are used to deliberately degrade the functionality of a feature in a controlled manner. It's used to mitigate issues or reduce the load of a service while informing our users about the technical difficulties and provide a status update. Your members will be still frustrated, but at least they will be informed. And no matter how good your product is, it will be worth nothing if your members are not using it. But no matter whether you've got crashes or outages, well, the feature is not used, or if your members can find it. For this and many other reasons, we are using the analytic tools to track the user interaction in our app. And let's take a look on this example. So what you're seeing is the more menu screen that we used to have a couple years ago back in the world of the native apps. And back then, we used to have a list of account services features followed by tools and services like credit, like log into your computer, auto switch business, receipt importer, and so on. But along with the Flutter migration, we also did some improvements on that page. We decided to move all menu items into the profile screen, so you can see the left screen, the left picture here. We thought that when we moved the profile, when we created the profile page and moved the menu items there, then there will be enough room to move the tools and services like higher on the screen. And this way, this improvement will give better access to our service entry points for our members. And one example here is the computer access button that we placed on the top left. Before, it used to be back down. You can see it on the second screen, so you had to scroll down. So definitely there was a user improvement. But it turned out that even though this was the fourth mostly used button in the more screen, after we moved it, our members were not able to find it anymore. They were trying to open the profile screen, they were looking back even into the login and security, but they were not able to find the button anywhere. And at that point, we actually realized that we made a mistake. We thought that we facilitated the entry point access, but it turned out it was actually the opposite. We've made it harder. And we've learned that thanks to our analytic markers. And we use them to track the user interaction with the app and take the data-driven decisions based on their actions. And in this case, the answer was quite simple. We had to return the computer access entry point back to the profile screen. And so we did. We literally placed it on top of the profile screen so our members can see it now. And this is just one example of how you can take data-driven decisions powered by the analytic tools. And so far we've covered the whole workflow. We have it tight. The whole workflow, we have it tight, starting with development, testing, CI/CD, releases, monitoring, toggling, and analytics. And implementing every step of this workflow is important for the overall quality of your product and your business. And I hope this was useful for you. And if you apply some of these steps, I can guarantee you that you have a better health status and improved error-free rate in no time. Thank you all. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask now.
So how do you tackle device-specific errors? Let's say I have a Pixel 7 and you have a Pixel 7. So
sorry, can you repeat one more time? I was able to hear you.
So how do you tackle device-specific logs? You have Pixel 7 and I have Pixel 7. So in similar code line, you will, in your device it crash and in my device it working fine.
So your question is how we track device-specific issues, right?
Right.
So in most of the cases, we rely completely on logs to figure out what exactly went wrong on this device. And we are trying to reproduce the same scenario in an isolated environment, whether it will be on WIP or staging doesn't matter. But most of the times, we just try to rely on our logs for those cases. Sometimes it's not possible, and for those reasons, we try to keep a huge stack of devices on the different operating systems so that we can actually find what exactly happened and whether it's a device-specific issue or it's something more global than that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, what was the biggest challenge you faced while migrating your app from native to Flutter?
To learn Flutter.
No, migration. What was, when you have some difficult modules to migrate in Flutter, whether the support is available or not. So, what was the biggest challenge while migrating your app to Flutter?
I don't think there was really a big technical challenge. because we have a really great team, and we were supported by two really great Flutter GDAs in the face of Anna and Alex Luischenko. And thanks to them, I think we had a really smooth migration. They were always next to us to help us with all of the technical challenges that we used to have. And thanks to their help, we managed to migrate the whole app in like less than a year. But to give you a concrete answer, I think some of the challenges we faced, or at least I personally had, were related to creating bridges between the native app and between native and Flutter for some features that are still not available on Flutter. For example, Apple Pay or Google Pay, Google Wallet, or things like the PDF viewers, which I know there are a lot of frameworks available on Flutter, but I can guarantee you that most of them just trigger a lot of crashes. And we've seen that on production.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
How do you handle personally identifiable information or authentication details during logging or while you're diagnosing problems?
How do you handle the application performance? Or
No. While you're logging,
yeah,
how do you handle personally identifiable information like username and other details and authentication details?
so we are stripping all of the logs that we are recording in Firebase. We try to remove everything that's user related. And one way to do that is we are logging only our block states and block events by just filtering them. We are trying not to log any user-based information. And like I said, if you need to do that, there is one way which says you need to have an encryption. And you need to have an explicit reason for doing that. And most of the times when you want to do it, you need to consult with the security governance whether this is the right way, because when you're doing an app, when you're developing an app for the global market, you want to make sure that you are following all of the restrictions, no matter whether this means GDPR or PDPP. You need to be compliant with all of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question about the timeline of feature and error first. Most of the times what happened, we found errors and we have a timeline for the feature release. So how do you prioritize that on that area?
Oh, you didn't mean this timeline, right? You didn't mean this one, but the feature timeline.
Yeah, so sometimes what happened, we have most of the error counters are increasing, and we have a feature timeline as well. So how do you prioritize the error fixing and feature?
It's really tough, but in the end of the day, if your app is not working, there's no matter how many features you have and how many you're preparing to develop in future in the next couple of weeks and release, if the app doesn't work. So crashes and errors are always coming with the highest priority. And we made sure to explain this, and we made it a lot of times to our product managers, to the whole business, and they now understand and actually agree with us that we need to have a stable app before we proceed with new functionalities. Even if the deadline is strict, we just try to defer for the next week if it's possible.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hello.
that was a great presentation. Thank you for that. But I just so since you mentioned that you switched from native to Flutter,
Yeah.
I just want to know what were the key challenges or maybe some major decisions that you had to switch from native to Flutter. Was there any tight specific issues or any challenges in the future plans that you had to switch to Flutter?
Well, the main reason we switched to Flutter is that we can easily, you need a single developer to release a feature on multiple platforms. So we're reducing the required time. We've reduced the release cycle for our features. And that's the main motivation behind migrating to Flutter for us, even though we are a product-based company with hundreds of functionalities underneath. But I would say the biggest challenge, the biggest technical challenge that we had, especially in the first couple months, was that most of the engineers at that time, most of the mobile engineers, didn't know Flutter, and we had to start learning it while actually practicing it on a massive code base. And this was probably one of the challenges, but thanks to like our advisors and our colleagues now, we were able to really quickly get on board it and start delivering releasing features really fast. But yeah, short answer is the release development cycle is the main reason.
Understood. Thank you.
For developers aiming to implement phase rollout effectively, what keys, metrics, or indicators should they monitor to assess the success of each rollout?
The success of each rollout?
Yeah.
Well, we're rolling out the success of every rollout per team. So let's say your team just introduced a new functionality for you. You will be tracking the rollout individually for how good is the conversion rate for your product. Other teams might not be interested in this given version, but you will be. So in order to track that, we just have a bunch of analytics markers that are attached to every button in the app so that you can track the behavior. We don't track what members are doing. We don't track their data. We are not interested in our members' data. We are interested in their behavior and their actions inside the app. And this gives us the success rate for the rollout of a given feature. And last but not least is the crash-free rates. If we see that the app is not crashing, and it's when we're doing the release rollout, we just gain more confidence and we can decide to bump it up, at least for Android. For iOS, unfortunately, there's no way. Okay. And thank you all again. Hope to see you later today on our booth. And have a nice rest of the day.
Thanks a lot, Emil, on that insightful talk.